So the Korean server just got the new update. This brings that DPS meter with the full breakdown and details of your damage output, including combat logs. But it also brings over 50 new tier 3 gear items, including 4 new armor sets, a weapon for every single type, 4 new accessories of each category with 8 new rings. I will go through all their details in this video, including where they come from. And we also have the new Rune Presets here, tied to now your gear presets rather than the actual gear itself. But it does come with quite a bit of extra solid cost. They have also introduced this new event. I'm assuming it's something that's going to remain for a long time, if not indefinitely. It's just a new activity we can do because this is where a lot of the new gear is coming from. It will rotate every day and it basically is going to revive the older Abyss dungeons. So let's get into the details. First things first, all that new gear. So 55 new pieces. We'll begin with the weapons. You have this new greatsword with this trait list. It comes with the bonus Will Eruption, a pretty strong ability especially for PvP. Then the new sword and shield. This comes with this trait list. And it has Resolute Breakthrough. Seems like an interesting effect, just not sure how useful it will be. Then the Abyssal Watcher's Daggers. They have this trait list, and you'll be able to use them to deal quite a lot of PvP damage. Not sure how useful in PvE. Then the new crossbow with this trait list, and the Acid Poison effect. Basically dealing a bunch of damage over time after you get to 25 Gale stacks. It also has a bit of defense shred and movement speed boost. Then the Abyssal Longbow here with this trait list and the ability Stealthy Arrowhead, giving additional projectiles and a damage boost. Then we have the new staff here. This comes with this trait list and it has the ability Swift Judgment, just removing that cast time of Judgment Lightning and an effect to reduce its cooldown. Then the new wand, it looks really strong here. It has this trait list and the bonus Blessed Haze. You're going to be able to spread your benefit effects between allies rather than curses between enemies. That includes Enchanted Time and Valorous Barrier. Pretty huge for support effects. Then there's the new Abyssal Spear here with this trait list and the bonus Spiral Assault. So you just get extra damage on Culling Arc and Flaming Arc along with extra casts. Finally, the new Abyssal Orb here comes with this trait list and it has the ability Void Echo. So you'll be able to get a lot more damage with your Void Stash as it will reactivate again, dealing extra damage and that damage boosted against monsters. Ultimately, these weapons just feel like stepping stone things. They may have some niche cases where they're best in slot for certain builds, but it doesn't look like anything is totally game changing here. We will now move to the new armor sets. So there are 4 new sets: the Crimson Lotus, Noble Wanderer, Secret Order, and Astronomer. So I have the display of all the pieces here. You can see what stats they're giving at level 12, the maximum. And this Crimson Lotus set is giving this bonus at 2 pieces of 16 extra damage reduction and 1600 max health. And then a very nice shield block chance boost. In terms of accessibility, it appears to just come from that new event. Those star engulfed mobs. During that time period, we will have the event. I'll have to go through it when it's actually running to see what it's like and how accessible these are with regards to drops. But the next set, Noble Wanderer, you can see all the pieces here, and it gives the bonus of at 2 pieces, attack range plus 8% and attack speed plus 8%. At 4 pieces, you gain a skill damage boost of plus 80 with an additional skill damage boost of plus 4 per 1 meter away from the target. And this skill damage boost increases up to 120. So what makes the most sense to me is that you can have the flat 80 plus an additional 120. So the maximum you're getting is 200 skill damage boost for a 4-piece set when you play at 30 meters range away from your target, which is the maximum we can have in the game. Ultimately, I don't see this as being that great compared to other sets. And if we look as an example where it's coming from, it appears to be arch bosses, at least the headpieces from Cordy. In the patch notes for the Korean server, they also give a full table of where everything comes from. So if we're looking at this Noble Wanderer set, you can see how the headpiece, yes, just comes from Cordy here, while the rest of the pieces are coming from that new event. But then we go to the Secret Order set. Just be aware these names are open to change when it comes to global, because these are just direct translations. But this new set gives the bonus at 2 pieces, 12% critical damage and 14% heavy attack damage. This is huge for a 2-piece set. And as a 4-piece set, you're gaining extra skill damage boost, plus 80, and if you use a crowd control skill, you can gain an additional 50, stacking up 2 times. So this set looks really good. I do not know, however, if you can stack this critical damage set with, say, Spectral or Imperial, that are the tier 2 sets, as these specify they do not stack with other critical damage boost effects. So it's very likely they don't stack, which means you would need to pair this with something else, which then makes this set questionable whether it's worth it. But it is a tier 3 set. It's going to have better stats here, more stats, increased combat power, and a total of 26% across these 2 damage boosts is pretty good, considering it's just a 2-piece and you can use another set with it, like Brute Slayer for attack speed and cooldown. But finally, we'll go to the Astronomer set. And yes, this confirms we have no damage over time increasing set effect, as this one gives the bonus at 2 pieces, critical damage resistance and heavy attack damage resistance. And at the 4-piece set, skill damage resistance. And when you use survival skills, you get an increase of skill damage resistance for party members within 30% of your attack range for 4 seconds, cooldown 10 seconds. So this is ultimately a PvP set with potential PvE uses for a little bit of extra survivability for damage soaks. That's the 4 sets. This Astronomer set, the Secret Order set, the Noble Wanderer set, and the Crimson Lotus set. Again, nothing really game-changing other than maybe the Crimson set for that shield block chance for tanks. But now let's jump to the new accessories. And no, they're not adding set effects like they did just before the Tier 3 release. These will simply just be new accessories with different stats. 4 from each with 8 rings. Although let's quickly look at the new cloaks. There are 2 new ones, and this looks super good. The Azure Sky Badge, probably best in slot to get versus the previous Delos Noah one to give that skill damage boost. It also gives cooldown speed, attack speed, and hit chance. So yeah, simply a direct upgrade from the older Frozen Expanse cloak. And in terms of its accessibility, it should drop from the mobs from the event. So maybe not too hard to obtain. At least it's not an arch boss drop. And the Twilight Veil one is like for tanks and PvP survivability. But now we'll go to those accessories. So 4 new necklaces. These are the stats they offer. These 2 here definitely stand out as like best in slot from what you may be using for PvE damage dealers. Dexterity, Wisdom, Attack Speed, Crit Damage, or Dexterity, Perception, Attack Speed, Heavy Attack Damage. And then these are like for healing and PvP. Then looking at the new bracelets. A PvP one here, a bit of alternative to the volcanic one, PvE damage. This is more for PvP, and this one for healing. Very nice to see them adding extra ways to get skill heal over time. Then we look at the new rings. There are 8 different ones, all listed right here. And again, there are some very good options. If you're going with the heroic ring, then you're just looking at, say, an alternative to the brutal agony ring. And this could potentially be it. Then you have some PvP rings. Here's another alternative to the brutal agony ring. And then ones with extra attack speed and cooldown. Pretty good for some builds, and heavy attack damage and cooldown. So not bad, but none I would really replace my Brutal Agony Ring with for PvE damage. So we then look at the 4 new belts here. These are the stats they bring, some survivability and PvP ones, and not really any I would replace what I'm currently using, which is the Belt of Twisting Fate, which has 11 attributes. This only has 6. Finally, the earrings, 4 new ones, and these are the stats they bring. Some more survivability and PvP ones. If I'm currently using the Teardrops of Fortune Omens, then I guess this Blooming Bloodstone earrings are a bit of an upgrade with the magic heavy attack. Or if you need some extra cooldown, the Holy Tidal ones. So yeah, could get a little bit of an upgrade here. But that is ultimately it for the new accessories then, plus those 2 new capes. And ultimately, that is a total of 55 new tier 3 gear pieces across those 4 new armor sets, all the new weapons and accessories. Again, I don't see anything as too groundbreaking or game-changing from what you may already be using. There are just some pieces here and there which may help you optimize your build a little bit further. For example, I may very well upgrade to this necklace, upgrade to this bracelet, and to this earring, along with this cloak. As for the new armor sets, I don't really see myself using them. As a Fury player, Invocator, Oracle player, I would still just go with 2-piece Sacred. Nothing's going to beat that 24% extra damage over time, especially when groups right now are taking advantage of double Tevant orbs for that massive damage over time duration and thus double damage on curse explosions. The boost from this set is just unmatched compared to any of these new tier 3 sets. So potentially I use the 2-piece Secret Order set. I'll have to do some math on that based on the extra stats you're actually gaining through here. Like, this is heavy attack damage, which is good. Although it's arms, that's problematic for me. And it could compete with, say, Spectral or Imperial that you may otherwise use, particularly if they don't stack. Which will all need to be tested when we can actually get our hands on this stuff. But now let's have a quick closer look at this new DPS meter. How to set it up for yourself? Well, you're going to have to go here to the ring menu, go to settings, go to quick menu, and you're going to have to add these 3 things to one of your ring menus. You can choose which one you want it to be on, but by default it's not on anything. I just added it on the first here, these 3 options. So when we open this, we have the option to turn on and off that combat DPS meter here, which just shows this little window, which you can edit in HUD to move it around wherever you want. No option to make it bigger by itself, just your entire HUD. And then you have the option to open the combat analyzer, which you can also open just by clicking on the little DPS window. And it gives you the breakdown of your abilities that you used during that DPS test. A DPS test is signified just by the time you spend in combat. So I'll equip a weapon here. We can use our Hellfire Rain and then use some basic attacks. My attack speed here is super slow because the amount of ping I have there, the server delay. But my DPS meter will not reset so long as I remain in combat and attacking here. So I will continually get more numbers added to this one. But if I go out of combat, this will stop a few seconds later when my character goes out of combat, and then it holds the data. But if you go in combat again, it refreshes and now it's all new data here. So just keep in mind of that. You can, however, also go and record the detailed combat log. So you're going to have to turn that on and off. And once you have it recording, it stores all that hit data. No matter where you are in the game, all that data is stored. It's just you're going to have a parser in order to really understand all this, because it's just in this format here. I'm hoping somebody makes a plugin for the advanced combat tracker that a lot of people use for different games. And then as an example from a game like Neverwinter, you'll be able to see your damage breakdowns like this, all those abilities, and the info would be stored. And it'll be based on what duration you select and what enemies you're attacking, rather than this just being for a certain instance of how long you were in combat, and then that data is not saved within the game. It is only saved in this combat log, which then you yourself are going to have to parse. There's no way to look at previous data on the combat analyzer here. And I don't know if this thing is going to work in trials, if this thing is going to work in the raid. I had a look out in the open world, just killing mobs out here on the map, and this DPS meter does not update. Same when I went to a co-op dungeon, say Spectre's Abyss, I attacked this mob, and the DPS meter will not update. You can see it still shows 13 seconds. It shows the data from that previous dummy test. So I don't know if it's only set up to work for dummies, but Tico did say it would work in trials and raids, but I can't verify it as my character on the Korean server does not have the combat power to enter that. Finally, if we look at the rune book, it's been changed a bit, so you now have your equipment presets here, and this is what relates to what runes you have. So we can unlock, for example, on a weapon, some rune slots here. We want dexterity, so we'll go attack, support, and defense, and that will unlock that synergy. We'll then equip these runes here. That gives us the bonus, and if we switch equipment slot, you can see those runes are not unlocked, and so we can have an entirely different synergy if we want there with different runes. Some of you asked what's going to happen with chaos runes then. For example, I throw in a chaos rune here. Will I be able to use that chaos rune on a different gear set? That's a good question. So let's go and unlock a rune slot here and try throw in that max health. And we can see it does indeed work. So we can have that max health used in this slot on this equipment setup, and we can also have it on this slot, a different one, on this equipment setup. So that means you can indeed use chaos runes on different gear pieces, despite how we've had that limitation before where you could only use one chaos rune on one gear piece and that was it. So yeah, definite good improvement right there. Just be aware that this change does mean all of your rune slots will be reset. You're going to need to spend the solent cost again to unlock all of them. And the cost to then switch these rune slots is going to be 1.355 million if you say wanted to change them after unlocking them. So be prepared to spend a lot of solent to actually unlock these rune slots across all your different equipment setups in order to, yes, be able to use your runes again. They did give us a mail here though, which gave 10 million solent here, perhaps to compensate for that rune change. But yes, all your rune slots are getting reset to 0. So you could screenshot what you currently have now if you want to make sure you will be able to correctly set it up again once this patch gets pushed out for us. But yeah, that's about wraps up everything for the update. We went over the DPS meter, the rune presets. I have not gone over this new event as there's nothing really I can tell you about it until we actually get the event. You can read the description there for peace and for war here for PvP. So basically you're going to enter these abyss dungeons. There's going to be some mobs to kill over the duration of a certain period of time. They appear at 51 minutes and 24 minutes during the event. You will kill them and hopefully get drops. Not sure how contested the peace versions are going to be, but yeah, we'll see. Ultimately, thanks for watching. A special thank you to the support of my channel members, and we'll see you guys around.